friends, welcome back to the Your Project Shepherd Construction Podcast. We teach here that every successful project has 4 key components that are demonstrated by this simple child's drawing of a house. The foundation is proper planning, the left wall is your team, the right wall is communication, and the roof protecting it all is proper execution. Have all 4 of those components in place and your project will succeed. Today, I am so excited to have not one guest, but 3 guests with me, and I feel like a thorn among roses, as the saying goes, I think. Is that it? Or is it a rose among thorns? Or
you can go either
thorn
way.
among roses. I'll go with the thorn among roses.
Yes.
Okay. So with me today, I've got Shannon Vestal, who is with Steve Shannon Design, and Shannon was on our very first season of the show, which was way back like 6 whole months ago. But we're on season 3+ now. So Shannon has her own podcast called Two Builders and a Designer Walk into a Bar, a Designer and 2 Builders Walk into a Bar. What's it called?
2 designers and a builder.
2 designers and a builder.
I was going to let you get it, but I'll help you out.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And so check out her podcast too. We'll definitely link that on the show notes too. We also have Laura Rickaway with Laura Rickaway Interiors. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah. Got it.
So I've known Laura for a long time. She used to work with another architect that we do a lot of work with too. And the first time I've met somebody here is Vyara Johnson with Aveon Designs.
That's right.
Did I say that right?
Perfectly.
Okay. So thank you all so much for being here today. I'm excited to have you all. Today's topic is something that I want to try to do like once a year, maybe moving forward, because things are always changing. And so the topic for today is design trends. I think sometimes some builders like me, especially guys, kind of get their heads down and we kind of do the same things over and over and we don't really change. And I'd probably still be doing the same products and the same things that I did 10 years ago if I didn't have you guys nudging me in the right direction and keeping us on trend. I'm sure most builders are the same way. Kind of like I'd wear the same clothes all the time if it weren't for my daughters and my wife nudging me too. So
Right.
That's right.
I wanted to start the conversation by talking about, well, actually, you know what? Let me step back for 1 second. Shannon or one of y'all, tell us how you guys know each other, because that's, kind of interesting. And
Right. So you reached out to me about being on the show again and said, if you can drag a couple of designer friends with you. I know each of them different ways. Laura and I are in a small group of designers where we share ideas, we share our vendors. It's a very open forum. There's no secrets. We kind of can run ideas off each other and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how Laura and I met. And V and I are office mates. We were each renting a cubicle at a co-work space. And so we got to know each other. And then probably a month ago, 5 weeks ago, it hasn't been very long. We are in the same space, but we started renting an office.
A larger private office.
A large office that we share. And it's been fun. So we've been able to decorate it and it's, we're going to have a open house. We're going to wait till the fall when everybody's back from holiday, but that's how we met.
you guys have kind of like a larger designer network group that y'all all hang out and get together and talk, right?
When we can.
Yeah.
We try to get together about once a month, but it kind of just adding on to what Shannon said, it's just really invaluable to have a group of women supporting women and networking together. And, because we're all in this together. And I think that a little bit of a common misconception is Houston is a gigantic city. Like there's room for everybody. And so it's just really fun and nice and refreshing to get together with these wonderful ladies. Some are newer into business. I mean, I've been in the design industry for 15 years, but I'm just going on year 3 of business. And so some of these ladies are a lot more established. They're just kind of getting their knowledge and leadership and community is just invaluable.
Yeah, I think that to just tag along on that point is I feel incredibly supported by the interior design community. And what was that famous quote by Kennedy? A rising tide lifts all boats. So I feel like that's very true for our community.
Absolutely. In a city the size of Houston, there's plenty of work to go around. And I have the same thing with some other builders that I'm friends with, and we all compete for the same clients a lot of times, and we all build the same kind of stuff, but we get together and share subcontractors and share ideas and all that kind of stuff. So I'd rather see that the work go to one of them than somebody that isn't doing things the right way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we've been known, there have been in our group text message, there have been messages that have come out and said, hey, I have this client that reached out to us. We can't take anything on at the moment. Here's the scope of the project. Anyone interested? So we're even doing that.
Yeah.
So I like it. I think it's been great.
Fantastic. All right. So getting into design trends, I wanted to kind of start by talking about exteriors, curb appeal, the first thing that you see when you walk up. Just an observation from me to kind of kick this off, then I'll get your ideas. But when I started doing this 20 years ago, a lot of the houses kind of looked the same, and modern design was kind of looked at like, ew, I don't like modern. That's boring. It's cold. But it seems like exteriors of homes in general have really kind of been trending more toward the modern side. Even if they're not like hard modern, there's still a lot of modern elements being incorporated into that. So I wanted to get your take on that. Do you agree with that? Are you seeing more of a shift to modern and less traditional? What are your thoughts?
I think a little bit in the terms that there is this, I think kind of an overarching note too on design trends is, for some reason, Houston's always a little bit behind everyone else, kind of especially, Dallas and, Atlanta, New York, kind of things like that. It's, I guess, we're at the bottom of the country. So it just kind of trickles down. I don't know. That's why it's so fun to travel and get inspiration from other places. But I feel kind of is to what you're saying, the modern, I would maybe call it more of a soft modern kind of incorporation, and really trying to find this kind of distinctive design style. How can we make a Houston home unique and kind of incorporate our traditional elements, but updated with a well-rounded exterior. But I definitely am seeing a lot of those cleaner lines and more modern windows, more modern, a lot of incorporating metal roofs and things like that, being wood siding. I'm seeing a lot of that lately, which I think is kind of a little bit of an edge, kind of if you're doing a brick with mortar wash and wood siding situation.
Like some mixed materials, like you'll see like a lot of wood siding with stucco or with white brick or whatever. What do y'all think?
That's a great point. The mix of materials is very popular right now. And I feel like introducing stone just to warm up even those more modern homes, it's definitely trending. The mix of materials for roofing, like tile or terracotta roofs or metal roofs, I think those are very popular. Another trend that I'm seeing, and not so much in Houston, is introduction of copper for gutters or outside lighting. Especially, it's very interesting when you see it with the contrast of a darker home. I think that looks beautiful. Brick homes, I feel like they'll always be in style, and a lot of people are trending towards more painting those brick homes white. One recommendation that I would have is like,
can we stop?
Yeah, if you love that, maybe just introduce a warmer tone of white. Maybe the moldings around the windows can be a different color, just to break it up and make it more interesting.
I think we just tell the paint manufacturers to put a hold on white paint. Just tell them it's back ordered or something. So you got to choose another color.
I mean, have you driven like Gessner and Briar Grove? It's like every single old brick house has been painted white, and then either the windows have been replaced with black windows.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, there's some beautiful, if you have ugly brick, I have ugly brick on my house and I plan to mortar wash over it. But if you have pretty brick, don't paint it, please.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of other things to incorporate some different materials and some trim options and window colors to make it look more modern and updated. But everybody doesn't need a painted white brick house.
Yeah, we had a ugly brick. We had like a pink brick with pink mortar. And so
that's what mine is.
That went away. That's now white. But yeah, I think that too many people jump on the bandwagon of painting the brick, and it's
Or give me an off-white or a beige or a
Right.
taupe.
Right. Or black.
It can still be light if you want a
Right.
light house, but because I get Houston is hot. But yeah, the white house with the black windows has been a little bit overdone, in my opinion.
For exterior materials, I mean, so as you know, Steve and I design custom homes, and Steve does the architectural, and as he says, I make it pretty. And used to, when we started, Steve was putting the materials on the exterior when he would do elevations, and he was somewhat dictating whether it was brick or stone, siding, stucco. And then lately he has started just giving me the elevations blank slate and saying, what do you want to do? Because he said, it doesn't matter to me. I used to just put something on it, but he said, I'd rather you just say, this is what I want and where. Obviously, it depends on HOAs, and some of them are dictating a certain percentage of masonry on the house. So obviously, we take that into consideration. But we have always liked to incorporate 3 products on the outside of a house. When the wood look, we all love the way the wood looks, but the real stuff is super high maintenance, as we know, with the west sun here, the rain, all of that. It just looks good. And then 6 or 8 months later, you drive by the same house and it's amazing how bad it looks in a short amount of time. So the first time we did anything to look like wood on a house was in Meyerland probably 5 years ago. And we put a wood look tile on the outside of the house. And the builder thought I was crazy. And I said, well, if you can put it on the inside of a house, why couldn't we put it out here? You can put it on the wall on the inside of a house. I mean, it's tile. And from the street, you can't even, it looks like wood. So that was kind of the first intro to, okay, let's start maybe incorporating this and more. And we don't do it in a lot of the spaces. We do it in small areas, but I think it's one way to take these more modern homes and give them some warmth. Because like you said, I mean, the white, just everybody wanted that look, but it was like, gosh, how can we warm it up? And I think now, of course, there's a lot of great faux wood products that are being developed for exteriors. So we have a lot more options now.
We've done a couple now using a decking material. There's some different brands. I mean, Trex is the one that lots of people know, the composite decking, but we've used one called Zuri that has some nice warm colors.
We're using that on our showcase home in Canyon Lake. Just got delivered last week. So I'm anxious we found them at the International Builder Show. Really cool product, and it looks fabulous.
Yeah, we've used Zuri twice now, and I've been using a product. It's actually a wood product, but it's called Thermery. It's a thermally modified wood product.
I saw that.
That retains so it's going to weather, it's going to patina, but it's not going to look like crap after after a year.
I saw that. That was really good looking product.
Yeah, I just put that on my house. Like I pull the old siding off and put that on mine and put a stain on it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
See, I'm in more of that camp because I love patina is one of my words. I love that patina. I love the being lived in, kind of the bright shine, staying bright and shiny, which some people love. But my personal love, I love kind of a little bit more. That's why I love, stone, natural stone and things like that. So
and
that's a really great option.
Like V said too. Yeah. The copper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The copper's great because that'll just age beautifully.
Accents. Yeah. Y'all mentioned black windows a minute ago. And I guess probably it's probably been close to 10 years. Black windows have been what everybody kind of wants on the outside of their house. But I've been having a few more people lately say, I'm kind of tired of seeing black windows. Let's do something different. Are you guys hearing that?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think the windows can really be overlooked and people don't pay close attention to them, but they can be a showstopper. And again, there's so many color options out there that you shouldn't settle just for the things that you see on a daily.
I think even I'm working on a spec residence, and I originally did not want black windows, for this point, and I wanted to be able to, do something a little bit different and not the white and black exterior, obviously. And even we went off and just did one of the lighter bronzes. So you're still going to get that high contrast exterior, but it's not going to be
It's not so
black and white.
harsh, right?
It's not so harsh. Yeah. So even just a step off of, the black. I mean, yes, big black Ram windows are beautiful. But I think, again, like V was saying, there's a lot of options out there.
And I think it comes back to the style of the home for sure. Because we did one a couple of years ago in River Oaks, and it was a little bit more of a traditional home. And there's no way I would have put black, even bronze. I mean, we did an Anderson window that was there. It's kind of a taupe finish.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of the
oh my gosh, it
that
turned
kind
out
of taupey or like
Yes.
almond color. That's
it was
still
beautiful.
you're still getting some saturated color on there,
right.
but it's
I wasn't trying. I didn't want to draw attention. That's the other thing is I wasn't trying to draw attention to the windows. You kind of just want them to. In this case, I just wanted them to somewhat disappear. But yeah, so I do think, depending on again the style of the home, the bronze even is a good option.
And I think that's true with all the black that we try to incorporate in homes. We don't ever go with like stark blacks. We might use more of a deep charcoal or deeper blues. So
yeah, so it's really more about the contrast and making it pop, right? Whether it's black or bronze or a dark gray or a taupe, it's just some contrast, so it's not all just kind of monotone.
Well, I think people are going to. Speaking of black, what people, if they haven't already, what they're going to be seeing is a lot of black exterior siding. Seems to be the new thing, trending.
Yeah, which is, in our climate, which is a little problematic sometimes because it just attracts the heat like crazy.
Right. And I saw one just the other day. The majority of the house was board and batten, siding, painted black.
Yeah.
And a little bit of stone on the front. And that was my first thought. I thought that is just that thing. And there's no trees around it, so I'm thinking, what is the temperature, at 5 o'clock in the evening?
Right.
I'll give you an address to drive by after we finish here, but we have a client right now who they bought a spec house in the Heights, which was a 3-sided corner lot, beautiful, all white board and batten house. Before they even moved into it, they hired us to add on to the house, and then they're painting the entire thing black. All the siding, all the trim.
Yes.
Like black all the way. And it's gonna be an oven.
Well, it's interesting. I actually was listening to a science show, and they had done extensive research about black housing and how that affects the temperature control inside the home. And it was very minimal, interestingly, because these days homes are built so much better with better isolation and all that. So it does make a difference, but not as extreme as we would.
It also depends on what kind of insulation they have and how well it's insulated. So like this one being a spec house in the Heights, it was built to minimum code standards, not super well insulated.
So you're saying they don't have foam insulation?
No, they don't. Whereas I did one in the Heights a couple of years ago that was all black, but it was all spray foam, and it really didn't make much of a difference.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that really matters.
Anything else on exteriors, like trends, things that you guys are seeing that you like, don't like?
Maybe landscaping.
Yeah. Landscaping
is, again, hire the right professionals for that. I'm not an expert, but hiring a landscape designer or an architect that can really elevate the look of your home.
Yep.
And seeing a lot of the English garden kind of versus this like highly manicured look, just kind of this sort of natural, organic, flowing. I think that everybody's yards in Houston are suffering a little bit. The freezes and then the extreme heat.
We probably really should just quit trying to water grass all the time and just go with some
native plants,
native rock and some, maybe have some grass in your backyard, but, trying to keep up with the neighbor on whose yard is greener.
Mine's just weeds. So
you're right on trend.
Well, those are better because they're greener. They stay green.
They stay green.
Those are native plants.
Native plants.
Maybe there's a product you can actually get to encourage weed growth.
Yeah,
so your yard is green.
Clover.
Yeah.
We call that quiet luxury.
That's a good one.
Moving inside, talking about floor plans in general. So not getting like specific on finishes, but floor plans is something I wanted to touch on. The trend for a long time now has just been more and more open, fewer and fewer dividing walls between living spaces. which was a big change from, the 50s and 60s and 70s, where you had all these small single-purpose spaces. Now it's more open. Is that trend continuing, openness, or are people wanting more segmented spaces now, do you think?
I definitely think we're going back. I mean, I see that with what the clients that Steve and I are meeting with. They do want some more secluded spaces, so to speak. Not necessarily that just walk in the house and you can see the dirty dishes on the island.
Yeah, I agree. I think kind of a happy medium, of the both. I think that in remodel instances, because obviously we have a lot of 50s and 60s, ranch style homes, people are wanting to open those up a bit and kind of increase, especially kind of like kitchen family room areas. But again, most of the time you have, 8-foot ceilings or 9-foot ceilings there. So you still have a little bit of that kind of coziness and warmth in the house. And in the new construction houses, still maintaining that kind of grandness and sense of openness, but definitely having some dedicated spaces that can be closed off and that, everything's just not open altogether.
One thing I found is interesting is you do want the people that do want kind of that just open floor plan, big windows all the way across the back of the house. All of that's great. And then you go to watch TV and then they're like, wow, those windows are glaring on my 72-inch TV and
when it's
the
hot,
sound. Right.
the heat
And then when
load
it's
coming in
hot,
there.
you've got the heat issue and then the sound. So I'm trying to watch my show and my significant other's in the kitchen banging around dishes. And so it seems like a great idea at the time and looks really pretty. But then I think when it comes down to the actual functionality of it, when you move in, so those are things that we just try to educate our clients. And that's why we spend, 3 hours in a design criteria meeting, getting to know them and how they live, because those are things that they're not going to think of because they're seeing photos on Pinterest and Houzz. And so they think, well, that's what everybody's doing. That's what we should do. Doesn't mean it works for your family. We do try to kind of get deep into that, how you're living. And so sometimes that will dictate spaces that we maybe close off a little more.
How much artwork and things like that people have to display comes into play, or it should, because when you start have a house with very few walls and lots of windows, where are you going to hang your artwork?
Yeah.
Well, and we did one we're doing right now. Their mom is going to be living with them, and she made a comment during that meeting, and she said, "Well, don't forget, one of them is she has a sable mount."
Oh, wow.
And so she's like, "Well, we got to put the sable somewhere," and then apparently she's got all this art collection that she's gathered. And so for me, I'm thinking, okay, if you know of pieces we are definitely going to want to put in this house, we need to start taking an inventory of those. And if you can get us some sizes so we make sure when we're designing this house, we're not going to place them all for you, but we just need to make sure there's enough walls for you to utilize when you move in.
Yeah, I think that, and speaking to what Shannon's saying, and I think speaking towards interior designers in general, I think that's why it's so crucial to establish this team and to have this meeting kind of as you're going into the plans and designing things. I love to any of my clients to see the existing space, to walk through, to see how they live, do inventories of things, especially, art collections and things like that. Cause that's, if you have a $50,000, large scale piece of art and you have large windows everywhere, where are you going to put it? And so kind of ensuring that you have homes for those things, and kind of as well what Shannon was saying, a lot of clients can't dictate and can't expound on truly what their needs and wants are. So we're a little bit like investigators and just kind of calling for information and, really interpreting what they're saying into what they actually really want. And, working alongside them. One of my lines is, that we're an advocate for the client, helping them speak up and saying what they truly want, because this is a huge investment, and really being able to accommodate those things so you don't end up with a house full of windows and a beautiful art collection that you can't hold.
Another point to make is I do still see a lot of requests for open floor plans, but with that comes also some of the other areas in the home to expand, like larger pantries and maybe larger prep areas, just to eliminate that clutter that you can find in an everyday kitchen, for example. And because everybody loves a clean kitchen and having space to confine some of those larger
small appliances and things.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm seeing a lot of dirty kitchens, which I love.
We call them a service pantry.
Service pantry. Yes.
On our plans. I know Steve just came up with it one day and it stuck. And so it is. It's for that, for the blender and sometimes even the coffee. I mean, the more people want to put away stuff, but yet we're all somewhat lazy. So do I want to drag it out every time? So if it's
there's certain small appliances that you use every day, coffee maker, blender, things like that.
Right. And
margarita machine.
You should have said that
Goes
first.
without saying.
You should have said that one first. Well, and one of the reasons Vyara and I, initially when we met, I had a project I wanted to bring her in on because my clients know that I will help you get the house built. I get all the selections made, interior, exterior, but you're going to need some sort of window coverings on all those beautiful windows, especially in bedrooms and such. And you've probably got artwork you don't know where to hang. You're going to probably want to get some new furniture, rugs, all that good stuff. The stuff that truly makes the house pretty when it's finished. And that is something I know Laura does and V does. And I haven't spent my career developing those relationships and those vendors. And I learned early on that it's not my favorite part of the design world. So I bring in these ladies early on and tell my clients, I know you think you've got your interior designer, but there's another part of this design process that we need to bring someone in on early. So V and I've got a couple of projects right now that she's been able to come in, and it's been fun because we kind of get to do it together, and I get to watch her find a million fabrics, and it's a whole different world. I now know why I don't do that part.
And those projects are usually, the best outcome because during the whole process, we're collaborating and we get to see even play off of each other's ideas, and the clients, I think, are very excited about that.
That's why I tell people, yes, another reason, get an interior designer involved early on when you're
you can have window treatments when you
getting
move
your
in.
team. Yeah, you don't have to do the stick up paper kind forever.
Draperies are great.
Is there some value to you guys walking through, like, so if they're building a new house, walking through their current house?
Oh, absolutely.
So that you can see what kinds of furniture they
Did
have.
we say that together?
See what their styles like, all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. That's one of the first things we do is walk through their existing things and
what do you like, what do you don't like?
Yeah, ask questions like what's working for you in this space, what's not working for you, how can we make it better? And another thing that I always tell my clients is don't tidy up before I come in. So I just really want to be able to give you solutions to the things that are not working in your current home.
See how you live.
Yeah, see how you live, how you entertain, you have pets. And kids, and
creating an inventory too, so that you have a file of furniture, artwork, pianos, things like that. Then, it works for then you creating the floor plans and doing your furniture layout and space plan and things like that. And then it also helps for their moving and storage and all of that too.
Yeah.
So
what's being donated, what's going to storage. Right.
And I think sometimes clients have some hidden treasures that they may not appreciate as much as we do. And we can bring them up front and make them shine again.
Or things like throne chairs that you have to incorporate.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've had one of those.
Yeah, I've had two actually. So
two,
been quite a pleasure.
You say throne chairs?
Throne chairs,
like the big wood carved.
Yeah.
I'm the master of the home.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's fun. I've watched, like I said, I've watched V on this one project. Our client they said, we're getting all new. This is 35 years worth of furniture, and we're remodeling the whole house. And so we want, new. And one thing that's cool about V is she loves to repurpose and go to thrift shops and find really, like she said, just unique little treasures. And so it's been fun to see her take a piece that they have that they thought they were just going to donate, and for her to say, oh, no, don't donate anything until I can really go through everything. And for her to find little pieces that she says, no, put that in storage. I think we're going to incorporate that. And they kind of look at you like, really? That was
20 years old.
yeah. And he bought that at a garage sale, and I thought it was ugly then. And, and she's like, just trust me, So that part's cool too. And another reason to, just open up your house.
Yeah. It's great getting validation when you've got something that your partner hates it.
Exactly.
And the designer's like, oh, that piece is amazing. You're like, see?
Yeah. And he's like,
I
didn't tell her to say that.
It's very interesting though. Like an example comes to mind that a client that we're both working on together, they had, the guy had this painting that he really loved, and it was an airplane, and she didn't really understand it. I was like, what makes it special? Like, tell me the story behind this art. And when he actually was done explaining it, she's like, oh, I actually don't mind now displaying it in a more prominent place because it's, a conversation starter. And
sometimes it can just be how it's presented, or maybe the frame that it's in. Maybe the artwork's great, but the frame's horrible.
Dated.
Right?
Yes.
So having a designer just to help identify those issues and say, you know what, we can reuse this if we
modify it.
Change the frame, change the fabric, whatever, but don't throw it away.
Yeah.
Right.
If it has good bones and good shape, then I think it should stay.
Yeah.
We can even fix shapes.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes having if the builder has a great carpenter who can make some modifications to something, that works too, right?
Absolutely.
So as far as other spaces, kind of sticking on floor plan, any like specialty rooms that you've been getting requests for? I know kind of as we've moved out of the COVID era where people were asking a lot of times for 2 home offices and dedicated Zoom spaces, things like that. Are y'all still getting that, or any other specialty rooms you're getting requests for?
You brought that up earlier. I'd noticed that was one of the things we were going to talk about. And we did do a couple of homes during the pandemic where we did design to office, and I'm going to say office spaces. So as opposed to having 2 studies, which most people would see as you walk into a home and, okay, to your left is a study, to your right is whatever. Used to for always would be a dining room, which isn't the case anymore. But what we have always done on our plans is most of the homes will have a study. Different sizes, the sizes vary depending on what furniture they're putting in there. But we've always done what we call a resource center. And this is usually kind of in the hub of the home. It's somewhere in and around the kitchen. And it's a space where stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, whomever it may be, or even if they both work, but I don't need a full office, but I need a landing place for my laptop. We can put the printer that everybody uses, the Wi-Fi printer, and whatever I've got to keep up with my kids' stuff they're bringing home from school. So where does all that go? Like, we know everybody's got to have that spot, right? Where you kind of control the home from this centralized location. And so we said, okay, let's call it a resource center. And we've done them in lots of different sizes. Some of them have some really pretty just barn doors to close off the space when you're not using it. 9 times out of 10, I think those doors stay open, unless you're having a party. But, and you could just have a small chair that fits in there. But and for some of my clients, they said, I have my kid do his homework right there. I want to be able to see what they're doing on the computer. And so, I'm in here cooking dinner, but I don't want them at the kitchen island. So you have that spot. We've gotten creative in that way. So you don't feel like you're stuck with 2 studies that then later you think, okay, well then husband or wife went back to work and now we're never going to use that. Unless we designed it in a way it could be turned into a bedroom.
Right.
That's a good point about the bedrooms. I had a client that, nowadays companies are a lot more flexible with people working from home and people are taking advantage of that. But they do want that change of scenery, or if both partners are working out of the house, having a little bit more separation. So one study is always a must, but I've also worked on with a couple of clients that the kids' bedrooms also double as an office during the day while the kids are at school. So having a small work area in the kids' bedrooms have
And there's a lot of furniture now that is great.
yes,
Kind of
like they doesn't look officey. It's
right.
just-
You can close it up when you're finished.
Yeah, I think being creative in that instance, because still too, I have a ton of Zoom calls even for, volunteer organizations and things like that. And so, being able to kind of take those, which again saves a lot of time because you don't have, the coming and going, to a meeting space. So I think that is a positive, that's come out of some of that. Kind of like you're saying, being creative. I'm seeing less of like the, 3 desk, homework desks on the landing upstairs, or, kids' homework spaces or desks in bedrooms, and kind of using this resource room, or if it's part of the utility room, or kind of something like that, and integrating, sort of a drop space that's, an actual, desk knee space. You can, put a laptop there and it kind of be a functional space, kind of in addition to the traditional, working study.
Those kids' desks at the on the landing, the stair landings,
Oh
are
my
like
gosh.
one of the first things that we've taken out in so many remodels.
Right.
My last house
People
had
are
that.
they're like, why do we
Mhm.
have this in this house? We've never
Mhm.
used this.
Oh, it was horrible. No, it was just a dump
Mhm.
zone for my girls. I mean, anything that I said, take it upstairs, they may get it upstairs, but that's where it landed. I'm like, 5 more steps and it could have been in your room, but it landed there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the desks in the bedroom. Clients want to build them in. I said, let's not design a desk into the
Mhm.
bedroom. Buy them a desk, because I promise you it will not be there very long. I said all 3 of my girls at one point had a desk in their room, and it was just a dump zone.
Yeah. Mine became a vanity table, so that worked. But
That worked.
but yeah, I too, I very much discourage
Don't build it
the
in.
desk space. Love like bookshelves and window seats and things like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
But having a desk space, in there, because I think especially as, a teenager doing homework, they're going to be on the floor, on the laptop, on their bed, on the lap, if they're
Yep.
in their room working,
Yeah.
not necessarily sitting at at a desk working.
I have three teenage girls, and they're always sitting on their bed with a laptop on their lap. They don't want to go sit at a desk somewhere.
Yeah. Posture's probably going to be a big issue for this generation.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
the screen time and
They're all going to be humpbacks when,
Oh, yeah,
when they're
exactly.
70 years old.
Exactly. I'll tell you, you were mentioning different spaces. I'm just finishing up a golf simulation room for
I have heard
a
a
friend
couple
of mine.
of those.
So they built their house, I think it was finished 2 years ago. And then he called me, and I think he just likes doing projects as part of it. But we took an existing outdoor, really big outdoor space that was just kind of a dining space, and that became the gym. We enclosed that and then poured an additional foundation tied onto that for this golf simulator. And it's pretty fantastic. I can hardly wait to get photos of it. V's been
I've
along
seen
the
some
ride, and
photos and
she's
they're
seen it.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I've been seeing requests for things like that as well. I've
More
been-
gaming areas, I guess you could say. No more media rooms, right?
I was just about to say, like, I've been like having almost zero requests for dedicated home theater rooms. I mean, sometimes on a really big, a very large custom home, we're still getting that. But on typical homes, 10 or 15 years ago, we constantly
Everyone.
got
Yeah.
requests for a theater room
Yes.
with built-in stadium seating and all this stuff. But I've gotten no requests for that recently.
Oh, I can't even, I agree. I can't remember
Yeah.
the last time I had somebody say we need a media room.
I think that people are just moving more towards multi-purpose rooms
Mhm.
and not
Mhm.
having designated areas just for one thing. Like maybe, yeah, you watch movies there, but you also entertain there, or you have gaming equipment.
Right. Well, and like this simulator, there's multiple games you can play. So it's not just for golf. You can do a lot of things on it. So it's really good for the whole family. It's not just, oh, dad's got a simulator room and we're
Mhm.
never going to see him anymore. He was telling me all the different games that you can play on it. And so I think that's cool. And now the existing game room is like, well, the kids are like, they're getting to be teenagers. What are we going to do with that game room? So I'm talking to him about turning it into a virtual reality space, since that's kind of the new cool thing. Everybody gets these goggles and So it can be a spot for the boys to still sit and play Xbox, but you've got like some comfy bean bags that can be tossed over to the corner. And then you've got this huge room and you can put on your virtual reality goggles. And so, yeah, making it multi-purpose.
One space that over the years we've taken out a ton of them from 1950s, 60s houses were wet bars, like home bars. We've taken them out, and now I'm getting a lot of people that want to put them back in.
And a lot more like they were. So that's what I think is so cool.
Drinking is back.
Yeah. It's trending.
It's what it is. It's you were trying to hide it, and you finally realized I don't
Embrace
care
it.
if they know I
Embrace
drink.
it.
Just how big can we make the bar?
Yeah.
Right.
I think people like my office in here. I've got a bar in there with my whiskey collection displayed. I think that lots of people want to display their collection of bottles and things like that. So it's functional and it's kind of showing off your
Shannon and
stuff.
I have a bar also in our office space, and we display some cool vintage glassware. And
we had a remodel project, and we turned obviously the kitchen and family room were open and has a breakfast area, and so we turned the dining room into the bar so that there's still a table in there. So if they do have a ton of people over, it can be secondary seating. But yeah, it's the bar with his whiskey collection and a whole room dedicated.
And wine rooms too are still pretty popular. Doing dedicated wine rooms with some refrigeration, whether it's freestanding or built-in refrigeration or an actual like whole enclosed refrigerated space.
I think that the development of some of these fancy appliances has changed in some ways the way that we're designing these homes and remodeling the homes is based on, these wine refrigeration units from Monogram and Sub-Zero and the amount of wine that you can and dual temp. So you can store your red wine and your white wine in there. I think that's given us the ability to not have to necessarily dedicate a whole room for the wine collection. So you can actually maybe take that space and actually have room to sit in there and not be chilly because the wine's in these wine columns. So I think that's partly too how it's kind of changed our design too, and finding out how much wine they have and so forth. And they're like, oh, but one big column would store what we need. And so I think that just with appliances.
Yeah, unless you're just a major wine connoisseur and you've got thousands of bottles, then typically like the taller storage will take care of your needs. I mean, we had one client last year that had a couple of the big tall columns. He's like, I've outgrown this. I need a wine room. We're like, okay, great. But most people, that's probably sufficient for them.
Yeah, we did do one, I guess, right after Harvey, and he's a big collector. And so that was fun. He said, I need it exactly to hold 1,200 bottles. So we ended up, I think by the time it was all said and done, it held more than 1,200, but it was fun. I mean, it was a fun project, something different.
So that was a good segue into appliances. A lot of cool new appliances. What kinds of new built-in gadgets and appliances are y'all getting a lot of requests for? I've personally done a lot of built-in coffee makers recently, which are awesome.
Love those. I kind of get a little geeked out on appliances. I mean, my appliance reps know, like when they're hosting things, to invite me because anything new is just it's fun.
One of my clients was considering actually putting one of those built-in pizza ovens inside in the indoor kitchen. So
those are awesome.
That's so awesome. Yeah, they're great.
But the Monogram one, you can actually cook all sorts of stuff in it. I mean,
and it's really interesting because it stays open, but when you stand right next to it, there's like almost no heat coming out of it. It's just great innovation.
We're finishing design on something that the guy wants it's insane. It's a $13,000 60-inch around wood-fired pizza oven, like a restaurant pizza oven. He wants to put in his house.
We did one, but we didn't.
Crazy.
Yeah, we did one he's a chef and owns a couple of restaurants here in town. We did one, but he put his outside. But
I've
it was
done
that
a couple
big.
Outside, but I haven't done any
Inside, Curtis. This one's inside.
Trying to figure out the whole ventilation for that is.
So I guess it's similar to what you would do at a wood burning fireplace.
Yeah.
So yeah, placement of that.
It's like restaurant. It's a centerpiece. Like the whole thing's finished in this beautiful Italian tile, and it's at the centerpiece of the kitchen.
Wow.
I guess you really like pizza.
I was about to
guess you
say.
really like pizza.
I was just about to say he likes pizza.
What
It
does
makes
have?
it makes lots of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Induction, I got to say, is making a comeback.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier these days because, used to it's like, oh, I want induction. And then, okay, I'm going to spend all that money on an induction cooktop. And now I got to spend the same amount of money on the cookware to use. Right.
Mhm.
And so now I think there's so much cookware. It seems like the majority of the cookware, decent cookware that's out there works on induction. But we've got people, I've got a few clients that are putting in induction.
Yeah, I just had a client switch from gas to induction.
It's interesting in Texas because, in Texas, we want to see the flame. We want to know it's cooking, but it's like, yeah, but this you can dial in exactly the temperature and you're not having to guess, well, if my flame is this high, is that 350 or is that more 375? And, it's still a guess, but the induction, the time it takes, it's such everything we want to do quicker now. So I think that's what a lot of the appliance manufacturers are targeting is how fast can you cook a meal when you get home?
Well, and the induction is also being driven by the
Government.
the air tightness required. Yeah. Out on those gas stoves.
Yes.
It's being driven a lot by the building performance criteria, the air tightness of the homes. And because when you put the big gas range in now, you have to also do the makeup air for the kitchen. So now you're dumping in all this outside air to make up for what you're sucking out with the hood.
Yes.
And it's going against the air tightness goals of the home.
Oh, that's that's probably one of Toner's favorite episodes to talk about is just a 48-inch range, or even some people that have the 60-inch. I mean, that's, you think about what you're pulling out of the house when you've got a 60-inch range going.
Yeah. The induction is definitely the way to go for a lot of reasons. We've been pushing those. It's getting to be an easier sell. It was a hard sell for a long time, but it's getting easier. People are warming up to it.
Good one, Curtis.
I'm seeing some speed ovens instead of microwaves. Yeah, I think
because they function. Yeah, they have the same. They have a setting.
Yeah, they have
that.
a similar function. Yeah, and microwaves they're just not the healthiest appliance out there.
No,
so
and why not? Yeah, if you can do more in the same oven, you can bake in it. You can.
Yeah, and some of them are like combo speed oven and a combo air fryer too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have your speed oven takes away your toaster oven, your microwave, your air fryer, kind of an all-in-one appliance.
It's gonna be like the Jetsons. You just push a button and your food appears.
Yeah, I think somebody posted something on social media a couple of weeks ago. I saw, and it was the comparison of a lot of things in our society now that they said, okay, the Jetsons knew what was coming. And they referenced all these little pictures of the Jetsons doing different things. Zoom, you think about how they talk to Mr. I can't think of his name. Remember the guy at his office, and he would pop up on the TV and say, "What are you doing at home?" And it's like, oh, okay, that's a Zoom call. That's Zoom. And same with the cooking. I mean, I participated in a cooking competition the other day with professional women in building, and we got to do our dish in the Miele kitchen. And that was my first experience with Miele, which I've always thought was way too expensive for any of the projects I was working on. I've since learned differently.
It's like the same as Thermador and the other ones, yeah.
Yeah, Laura, the Miele rep
she's great.
She was in there with us, and I'll tell you what, my chicken dish that needed 45 minutes, she's like, oh, hang on, let me turn this speed oven on over here, and it cooked in 21 minutes, and it steamed the chicken first, and then it switches to a crisp mode. So the skin on the chicken was nice and crispy. And then so having that going, and then having a whole dish of vegetables in another oven doing their thing. And then we had the induction cooktop going. And that whole meal we pulled together in 45 minutes.
That's why you won.
That's fine.
No, Curtis, it was my fabulous recipe.
Oh, okay.
That was it. And the presentation. We were judged on a lot of things. And,
Speedy and delicious.
and cleanliness of our kitchen. We were also judged on that. And let me just say, induction, so easy to clean, as opposed to your gas grills having to take all that apart, right? Induction, flat surface. And I will tell people listening, these appliance reps are more than happy to meet you at some of the local showrooms where they have live kitchens, meaning all of these appliances work. So like you said, even the built-in coffee makers, they'll say, I'll meet you over there. They'll make you a cup of coffee and say, let's cook on the induction.
Have you
what do
been
you want to cook?
to the Cook Chill showroom?
Yes. That's where I was.
That place is awesome.
That's where we did our cooking competition last year.
Yeah.
So
You been there?
I haven't.
My
No,
gosh.
me neither.
You should go.
Yeah.
They have like multiple full kitchens set up, and they're all fully functional.
They're all working.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was there for a AIA event last year, and then I think I went to one for a designer event, and it's so cool.
Yeah. So that part's fun, is to be able to, and they, K&N, that's where I go, a lot of my clients, that's what we use, K&N, and they've got multiple functioning kitchens. But that is one thing. If you're not sure, I just say, go try it out. Don't say no until you've at least looked at it, because it really does save a ton of time.
Yeah. So last thing on kitchens real quick, cabinets, what kind of cabinet trends are y'all seeing?
I think that the more modern shaker style cabinets are in style, maybe with the smaller profile, not as prominent as they used to be. And of course, those are not great for all style kitchens, but I think that's one. Another that I've seen also is the stone wrapped kitchen cabinets fronts. I think those are making their splash right now. This way you can have the countertop and the cabinets around the countertop just blend and from the same material, and then introducing maybe wood for the upper cabinets.
Yeah, I think
talking about upper cabinets also, I feel like having no upper cabinets at all is also a trend. If you have the footprint to still accommodate good storage space, that's really.
When's the last
great.
time y'all did open shelving? I never could wrap my head around open shelving in the kitchen.
I think it's probably more for people that have show kitchens, like introducing those.
If your dishes are all pretty and they match, but then you still got to rinse it before you use it, because I mean,
Yeah, I don't do many, and honestly, I'm seeing a lot of the glass in cabinets go away.
Oh, yes.
Because people don't want to, have to have a collection, or whatnot to put up there. So I'm seeing a lot of the glass and just having all the closed storage.
And cabinets still going, even though we're doing 10-foot ceilings in most of these new homes, everybody still wants their cabinets to go to the ceiling, because I'm like, you don't want to.
They'll never.
You don't
reach
want
it.
your English ivy, fake English ivy, and rubber grapes up there. Looks so pretty. No, can we please take it to the ceiling?
I just did a kitchen remodel. It was kind of a facelift, but we did go through and we took out a lot of the, turned legs and some scrolly things, and and all of that, and did a little facelift, and the cabinets did not go to the ceiling. And so she came back and she was like, look at what I found. I found this, this, and this, and I'm going to put them on top of the cabinets. And I was just like, oh.
Can I take pictures before you do that?
Yeah, that's the problem. People always think that something must go up there. And most of the time, you don't need to.
I like to vary the height of the cabinets so they're not. So if they don't go to the ceiling, or if they do, it's not all exactly the same all around the kitchen. Let's mix up the heights, mix up the depths a little bit, so it's not just kind of blah.
Yeah, because sometimes they can't afford to carry everything to the ceiling. I mean, that adds a good chunk of change.
But on a big kitchen, it depends a lot on the client, because a lot of clients are very symmetrical, and they can't really wrap their head around doing different levels.
Yes,
but, that's where we come to.
Yeah.
Educate them and push them to something new.
Exactly. And speaking of kitchens too, please do some color. No more white cabinets. Its color is making a comeback, and clients, I think, are hesitant because that's not what they're seeing on Pinterest. or Instagram or House. And I tell them, well, you're not seeing it because that's what we're starting to do. So how about your kitchen could be the first to be on Pinterest
The
and
trendsetter.
Instagram. And yeah, and not to mention, I tell people too, you don't know how old that photo is you saw on Pinterest. I mean, I could go back and pull something from 10 years ago and put it out there. And just because I posted it today doesn't mean that it's a current trend. So be careful of that too. But I'm just glad to see color come back and not everything gray and white.
I think almost every house that we're doing right now has multiple colors and textures on the cabinets in the kitchen. Like there might still be some white, but there's also blue and then some stained wood and kind of a mix of colors.
Yeah, and stained, you're right. The stained cabinets are coming back too, and not just the white oak. I know that was the Rift white oak. We've been doing a lot of that, which is really pretty. But I think some of the other stain colors are also coming back.
Walnut, like a dark walnut.
Yeah, I love the walnut cabinets.
Yeah, a designer in our peer group, she just did a kind of a deep ebony kitchen, and it is beautiful. And then I think her Butler's, which is right off of it, is kind of like a peacocky turquoise. I mean, it's so fun. I love bringing something back. Even I'm doing one right now where all of the lower cabinets are going to be kind of like a dirty foresty green color, and then our uppers are going to be white. But just to add a little bit of interest and
it's
layer.
It's paint.
Yeah, it's paint, and also if you can wrap your head around maybe doing not all white kitchen, doing the backsplash in color or some tile that has a lot of texture, just some more visual interest would make your kitchen just different than,
I love
than
doing
all
the
the rest.
backsplash fun because I tell people instead of spending $4,000 on this crazy beautiful slab for your island, which I get is pretty, but when you walk into a house and you walk into the kitchen, the first thing you see is the backsplash and cabinets,
or
not
even
the countertop.
Mix that material for your countertops and bring it up onto the walls and mix it up with some tile.
Yeah.
I do love a slab backsplash.
When it's done right.
If the budget allows.
When it's pattern matched.
Yes.
I'm also seeing in the countertop realm, a lot of people are bringing in that honed black granite, and I love it.
I love it.
I think it's such a great utility piece, but it's really inexpensive. A
Yes.
friend of mine's doing, her perimeters are all honed black granite, and then she has 2 islands, and then they're like, the beautiful expensive marble. But yeah, I mean,
I
it's
love
just,
the honed.
I love that kind of mixing things up, and it's great.
Like a honed soapstone.
Yeah.
Like a dark
Love
gray
a
honed
soapstone.
soapstone. Looks really great.
Yeah.
So we're doing one right now where all the perimeter is the honed soapstone that wraps up. But then the island, they picked a really cool slab that they wanted to spend the money on just on the island. And it's a great contrast.
And I tell people too, a lot of the there's so much beautiful quartzite, which is a natural stone. And quartz has been big for a while, which makes sense. It's durable and so forth, but it's pretty
Pulling
simple.
It out of kitchen.
But we're right. And we are going back to more of the natural materials, granite. And when you say granite, people are like, I don't want granite. But there's different granite. It's not your grandma's granite. I mean, it's different.
Porcelain's been really popular as well. The thinner porcelain slabs, which I, as a builder, hate working with.
I was about to say, you can't enjoy that.
That's why you need to use me more for your projects. Because I do not. I said, no, we are not putting porcelain in your kitchen. I mean, you hit that with one Calphalon pan or anything, and it chips, and it's a piece of tile.
The fabricators hate it.
And fabrication cost is
astronomical. They charge 2 or 3 times as much to fabricate it. And a house right now, I think we're on our 3rd set of slabs for the kitchen.
And you hear that
you're
over
not
and
saving
over.
any money that way.
No.
You just go natural.
And you hear that over and over. But the quartzite, like you said, it's beautiful. But I always say, depending on the pattern and all that you're getting, a lot of times it doesn't make sense to do your whole kitchen because people walk into these places and they see a whole slab, and I have to go and hold my arm up at 2 feet and say, okay, but this is going to be, if you cut it up, this is all that you're going to see. So, you have to think through some of those things too when you're selecting your countertops. You're not always going to be seeing that whole slab, depending on where you're putting it.
All right.
One trend that I'm glad to see go away is also the waterfall countertops, where the countertop extends all the way
Are
to
you
the
seeing-
floor.
I
you
love
see
a- I
less
love
of
a
that?
waterfall.
You do. I don't. I think that it's not for me, and it just
Well, I think it's
makes it a
super
little bit-
modern.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it leans more modern.
It didn't have. We
But-
did a kitchen, and I wouldn't necessarily call it modern. I would kind of soft. I hate the word transitional, but kind of that in between. But I feel like kind of however you do it. But it can make a fun
if it's
statement.
executed well and it makes sense for the space, definitely. But those just oversized islands that are wrapped on
Yeah.
both sides.
It does require a lot of materials,
Mhm.
so it is expensive to do.
And also, you have to think about where you're putting your power too, because
Yep.
the code says an island has to have a plug on each end of it, and if you don't want to break up the look in your beautiful waterfall and stick a
Well, now they make
a
some
receptacle in
recessed.
the middle.
They make recessed receptacles, and you have your fabricator drill the hole. They're round.
And we've been using those a lot, but still people, I mean, a lot of our clients haven't wanted to see anything breaking
Right.
that
Yeah.
up. So
You
now
can-
we're like, okay, can we hide those receptacles on the insides of the legs, or can we put them on the face of the island facing the
Mhm.
sink? But it's always a dance with the city inspector trying to make that
Yep.
legal.
Yeah.
I think one way to get around with that is maybe hiring a local artist and coming back and actually pattern matching whatever
Mm.
material you're using on the island to the plate of the cover. So,
That's a good
yeah.
idea. And some of the manufacturers have some cool looking plates. Like I know we did one last year where the side, and this wasn't a waterfall, but it was a white oak
Mhm.
side of the island, and we found some of the Legrand cover plates and
Mhm.
receptacles that were white oak.
I just did those.
The
as well.
green matched
Yeah.
it really closely,
Mhm.
and it looked good.
Or you could do the pop-ups on the island.
Mhm.
Those aren't always, in my opinion, either. Those kind of mess up the
Mhm.
look, but we have done some of those where you have the pop-up receptacles.
Try to keep those clean, the little bits of food and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
going down in there.
Yes, yes.
There's pros and cons to all those methods.
Yep.
Let's talk briefly about colors and wall coverings and things like that. I know we're running a little bit long, but I wanted to hit colors because that's always a big design topic, and kind of going along with like once a year trying to talk about what's trending. What kind of colors and things like wallpaper are you seeing?
I would love to talk about wallpaper.
Go for it.
I love it. And I love the idea these days that we're kind of blurring the definition between indoor and outdoor. And we're trying to bring more of the outdoor in with maybe through some more scenic installations of larger wallpapers or murals, hand-painted murals or wallpapers. Something more dramatic, especially for the more intimate spaces of the home. I think that those are great, like powder rooms, a dining room, maybe even a music room that you can make it very special. And as far as color goes,
Use it.
Use it, and more of the jewel tones are back.
Terracotta.
Brown was a bad word at one point, but I think brown is sexy again, and it's if you use it in the right way and with the right combination of colors.
It's been kind of gray, like gray for a while now, but I'm seeing a trend away from gray. Do you all agree?
Yes.
I agree. Yeah, I think those warmer tones, the browns,
Terracotta.
terracotta, some of those taupey colors. I think a lot of that's coming back. I mean, I think blue and green are here to stay, which is fine because I'm a blue girl.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of blue and green, but then the kind of the neutrals. We did kind of like an aubergine study. Have done a couple of like really saturated, kind of like I said, just did that peacock blue. I've done kind of a peacock blue study. So it's a really fun way to make a space, like a study or a sitting room or something like really intimate. And
It's definitely
and
a
then on the-
conversation piece,
and then
for
on the
people.
wallpaper. I mean, I just think that just jazzing it up with, some warmth and, pattern and stuff, for instance, in a master bath I'm working on right now, it's pretty much all marble and have a wainscoting, and we don't have much wall, but then doing wallpaper, on those walls just to
Don't you love
add
to
a
see
little,
people's
like,
face when you mention wallpaper?
In the
Because-
bathroom, especially.
Because our clients, I mean, all of our clients have had wallpaper in a house
And
in their
removed it.
lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And they're like this one client that had 35 years of the same furniture. And we said,
Mhm.
we're recommending wallpaper. And they looked at us like, they went, not the like ivy green, you know, and we were like, no.
The border around the top of the
Right.
kitchen
Yes.
with the flowers on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
In my personal house, the master bath had an existing wallpaper in it, and it was just in really, really bad shape. But I wish I could have kept it because it was from probably the 70s, but it was a really pretty like botanical print.
Yep.
And
Same.
some of
It's
those
in style.
It's back.
some of those nostalgic
But
prints
yeah, I
are
was
back
so
in
sad to have
style.
to
It's the
paint
thing.
over it.
I don't know, you know, if people stuck to the old adage of just keep it and eventually it's going to come back in style,
Mhm.
we wouldn't have
Yeah.
a job because it is so true.
Mhm.
It comes back. So
All of the Parrish Hadley stuff and kind of, you know, all of those old and
The
archival
tiles.
prints.
how about the
and-
50s, the bathroom tiles that
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I
were
know everybody
pinks
loves
and-
Zeliage tile right now, and it's
Yes.
just the old 4x4 ceramic.
I'm doing a backsplash in West U and we're doing a 6x6.
Uh-huh.
I never thought I'd be doing small square tiles again,
Mhm.
but here
Yeah,
we
I had a
are.
client, she was like, no rectangles, only squares. And I was like, okay.
So there is no, to me, I don't know that people say I want timeless, and I don't know if there is really such a thing.
Mhm.
You get tired
Again,
of,
we'd be
tired
out of
it
a job.
eventually.
I mean, yeah, why not do something fun
Yeah.
and different? And
And going back to the wallpaper, I feel like if you decide to do a wallpaper room, do it all the way around. Don't just do an accent wall.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Go bold or just go
yeah,
with
we don't
paint.
recommend accent walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget your ceilings.
And Curtis
Yeah,
is over there
ceilings are the-
thinking, like, do I have an accent wall?
No accent
Do we
walls.
have an accent wall in here?
No, this whole room
No,
is
you
great.
did a good,
No.
you did a good job. You're good.
Even
yeah,
your
the
ceilings.
ceiling is your fifth
Yeah.
wall. So
Yes.
It's always fun to do something up there.
And brings that wallpaper up to the ceiling too.
Over the years, we've taken out so much wallpaper. It's refreshing to see. Like right now, we have one or two projects where we're taking off some old, outdated stuff and just going right back with new wallpaper.
Mhm.
Instead of in past years, we would have taken it out, floated it, and painted it.
Mhm.
So it's kind of fun to be
I
going
think one of the
back.
problems that wallpaper making such a comeback is finding the installers, because
Yeah.
for so many years
Yeah.
we were ripping it all off and we were not putting it in.
Yes.
And so a lot of those people have retired, and so trying to find a good wall covering installer these days,
the ones that are here making a killing.
Awful.
they are making
Awful.
yes, yeah, they're making a
Yeah.
fortune. The good ones are.
So
are
if you're
doing
out there
well.
and you want to learn a trade, learn wallpaper installation, and I bet you could make a lot of money.
yes,
Call us.
call us.
At least for the next 5 years till it's out of style, and then you're out of work again.
But you
I
know,
hope wallpaper never goes out of style.
I know, I agree.
I love it.
Yeah, there's two ladies that I use for installs, and they're always busy. I call them. I'm like, "Can I get in your schedule?" They're like, "Yeah, we're 2 months out."
Yeah. So
Hey,
when
2
you,
months now does not. Some
I
of
was
them are
about to
6
say,
months
book them
out.
when you start building the house, and just
Mhm.
say, we know there's going to be some wallpaper somewhere in this house. So can you just put us on your schedule?
Mhm.
Last design topic I wanted to hit was lighting, and my first comment was I love LED tape lighting because we can use it for accents in so many different areas. A great example is here in the
I was about to
studio.
say
this.
This is all color change LED lighting, like in a house. We can use it in so many places to provide accent where we never could before. So we use LED tape lighting on stair risers, under the edges of treads. We use it in
Under floating vanities.
under floating vanities like toe kick lighting. Obviously, kitchen under cabinet lighting
Mhm.
is
Some of the
the big one.
Some of the cabinet manufacturers, we just went to one not too long ago, and they're starting to incorporate it to where you can go ahead and order the cabinet, like you're in your kitchen or wherever
That's
you want
smart.
the under. They'll install it there,
I love it.
which is awesome
Yeah.
because they're taking on that responsibility of making it look good.
Mhm.
Also inside cabinets, like for closets,
Mm-hmm.
where they, you open the doors and automatically a light comes on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great use.
Yeah, I
for
think
it.
lighting the LED tape has changed things in lighting the inside of cabinets because
Yes.
you can put it, behind that face frame and it illuminates. So you don't. I mean, you can obviously have glass shelves,
Yeah, but we don't
the
have
little
to.
puck light, obviously doesn't illuminate all the way down. That you can really just flush.
And they're not pretty
that built
anyway.
Yeah, it's just really pretty getting that little.
Yeah, we're doing
cast.
some pantries or some chef's pantries,
Mhm.
pantry cabinets where the LED tape lights inside the face frame, so it lights up the whole inside of the
Yeah,
pantry
I love
It
cabinet.
that.
makes so much
So
more
nice.
sense to do it that way. Your lighting is so much better.
Mhm.
And it's relatively inexpensive. I mean, it's come down a little bit, but you'll still spend a couple $1,000s on LED tape, but it's so flexible.
Yeah.
And outdoor spaces too.
And just highlighting some of the architectural features of the home.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a great use for it, but maybe just don't overdo it. It would be another advice for me. Highlight it on those special places of your home. And
I think that's what's happened on exterior of homes is people have gotten a little carried away with soffit lighting.
Oh my God, I hate it.
And I'm all about recommending soffit lighting for certain areas, maybe a couple here or maybe over where the garage is. But I mean, you drive by some of these places at night and it's, yes.
It's awful.
It's awful.
I'm like, how are you sleeping at night? That thing is shining right in the bedroom windows and it's just illuminating the whole street.
As long as it's also lighting in the neighbor's bedroom.
Yeah,
I keep getting these Facebook ads keep popping up for this one company here in Houston that advertises the LED can soffit lighting, and all the pictures they show in their Facebook ads are so terrible. I'm like, why would anyone call? Yeah, my iPad's listening to me right now.
Yes, you're going to get even more now. I say lighting. I tell people that lighting's one of my most favorite parts of selections. It's the jewelry of the home. That and cabinet hardware, I guess, can be, but lighting can make or break a room.
1,000%. I geek out on lighting a little bit. I love an RCP and kind of designing through that. But I also think it's important to note just being really intentional about your layers of light. Other than my kitchen and my bathroom, I never have any overhead lights on just because I like, lamp lighting and kind of lower lighting. But, being able to control those different things, having ambient lighting, when you're watching the TV. And I think this was one of the AV or maybe Illuminations or something says it's so much easier on your eyes if you have a TV in a bookcase and then the bookcases are lit with that LED tape lighting. That TV is actually going to appear brighter and more enhanced because you have that lighting, back by the TV. So just being able to play with some of that.
So I always tell my kids they want to turn all the lights off when we watch TV, and I'm like, that is so bad on your eyes. And they're like, Mom, but you don't know. I'm like,
I do a little.
Okay.
But then yes, like in the decorative fixtures, I mean, that's obviously, jewelry and can make or break. And the scale is so
huge.
important.
Yes.
A house that Curtis and I did, we had a gigantic ceiling and some gigantic lights that we had to put in that ceiling. And that was definitely an exercise trying to figure out, the scaling and the placement on those and to get that right.
It's hard to envision that when you're looking at it on paper, like what that's really going to feel like in that room with 24-foot ceilings.
Yeah, it was. I don't recommend 24-foot ceilings for the record, but yeah, just playing with, templates. Because we can do elevations and things all day long, but creating templates and things like that are huge when you can help to determine the scale. And
I think that's where our 3D capabilities now, some of the companies, one that we work with, to be able to put it into 3D where you could actually, in augmented reality, where you could actually walk through your house. So you could put that chandelier in there and look up and determine yes or no.
Authenticus?
Yes.
Right. Have y'all used Authenticus yet?
Is that the warehouse where they project your floor plans?
Yeah, the augmented reality stuff.
I haven't walked through it, but I've seen some videos of it.
You'd have to go over there with me one day. Yeah, we're members, so that's part of what we offer our clients. Steve always calls it like an insurance policy, to be able to go walk your plans. And it is fun to kind of listen to the clients talk between each other as they're walking through, and they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. Wow. And it's like, we're in our house. Yeah. It's to scale. So
that is really cool.
Yeah. And aside from just the walking through the floor plan, but when you put the goggles on and you can actually see, like walk through a room and and see the chandelier in the space and things like that. That's a great
it's a really
good
tool. Yes.
On lighting again, I think wall sconces, I feel like are greatly underused. Like when you go down a long hallway and you've got nothing but like a row of recessed cans on the ceiling, like using something on the walls as, like non-overhead lighting, right?
Yeah, just that soft. A, they're pretty, but B, just having that kind of other layer of light and how it, washes the walls. I love sconces down a corridor, up and down stairs. Obviously at bathroom vanities because the sconce lighting lights your face versus having something hanging over your head that creates shadow.
I've been using so many of the lighted mirrors now. They're not as pretty as a sconce, but the lighting is amazing. It's been doing a lot of the lighted mirrors and vanities.
I think using a lot of these different products in combination, or having the option for them to, maybe there's a recessed light or a sconce and you have a lighted mirror, you can turn off one or the other. As you know, when you're getting dressed or putting makeup on or whatever, the way that you look in one kind of lighting is not reflective of what you're actually going to look like when you walk out of the house. So if you can kind of turn on some different lighting in the room, kind of get a different take on what you look like.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's my makeup advice for the.
We didn't know we were going to get
episode.
some tips while we were here.
Good tips.
Well, you mentioned sconces in the stairwell, and I always recommend that we do step lighting in these homes because your kids they're not going to be as awake when they go down the stairs as if they're having to flip on the overhead light. I mean, it's bright and you're like, all right, they're awake now. But if you give them just enough lighting to get down the stairs or back up the stairs, and those can be on motion. So the minute you hit the top of the stairs, they come on every third step or so.
Yeah. Or they're on a sensor or they come on, automatically when it's dark or whatever. Absolutely.
So we've been doing a lot of probably every home we have step lighting.
Yeah. So I think all of these are great reasons why people need to have a designer involved in their project. People are always like, oh, man, I spent all this money on architecture. My house is already expensive to build. I'll just pick some of the stuff out myself. These are all reasons that you guys are needed. The average homeowner does not think through all these things we talked about. And they've got to have that person who is helping them think through it, who's, and as you said earlier, advocating for the client with the builder, advocating with the architect for why some of these things should be done, right?
Yeah. I think we utilize experts in our field all the time. We utilize our plumbing reps and appliance reps and our builders, obviously, and structural engineers. So we utilize experts, but the clients utilize us as an expert because, some of them are experts at, finding oil, and some are experts at accounting, and some are experts at heart surgery, which I am not an expert at any of those things, but I am an expert in helping people along this process and guide them in making sure that because 90% of our clients, this is their largest investment. And it's something that you want to really make sure that you're doing it right the first time.
Right.
Definitely.
I've never heard someone say, I wish I hadn't hired a designer. It's always, I wish I had hired a designer. I wish I had some help doing those things. Yeah.
And I have one client that now we're on a second house and they're just like, we're never going to do anything without you again. That you're so invaluable, and how it just made, everything. And they've built 2 or 3 homes, previous to the home that I started helping them with. And so just to see kind of how it just makes their life easier, so then they can be out there making the money to doing heart surgery to pay for interior designer.
Right.
They already have full-time jobs, and having to tackle that on top of it can just add on stress onto the already kind of stressful situation. So having an expert on your side that is doing this for a living, and we have seen all the kinds of scenarios that can occur and can anticipate them along the way and help clients make decisions. And, we, at the end of the day, make it fun. And through the selections that we have helped them make, we increase the value of their homes.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think we talked about this in our first episode that we did first season. I mean, there are literally thousands of decisions to make, and people don't realize that. They're like, oh, I just need to pick out some faucets and some lights. And no, you've got, dozens and dozens of lights and dozens of plumbing fixtures and cabinet
and base
hardware
boards and door casings. I talk about some of the boring stuff that they don't realize is not, there's no standard. This is a prototype. This house has never been built, and every single thing that goes into this house, somebody needs to make a decision.
And if you don't, like you might get that builder's default product, which you're going to complain about later.
Yes. Or you're not going to know what went in until it malfunctions later. And then you're going to find out what crappy material maybe was put in behind the wall that you didn't know about. And we talk about the valves in the wall. I mean, that's the kind of detail that we get involved in. So it's not just the pretty stuff, I tell people.
Yeah. We have run into, on my consulting side of things, we've run into so many situations where a house gets to a certain point and the client's like, well, why did the builder do it that way? It's because nobody told him otherwise. The architect, the designer, you as the homeowner, you didn't know to ask that question. So he just did what he always does. It's not necessarily his fault, but unless you give him a selection or tell him what you want, how's he supposed to know? And you're just going to get the standard item, and you're probably not going to like the standard item because it's going to benefit his budget.
Yeah, and if it's not him, it's his sub. I mean, if you didn't tell him how you want the tile installed, his tile installer is going to do it in probably the easiest way that he can, and the least expensive, like you said. So you're right. There's a lot of details.
Yeah, we actually had this conversation internally here at Crafted last week about before the tile installer starts anything, thinking through every single thing he's going to do. Where are those joints going to line up? How does that relate to the niche? How does it relate to the shower head? It's like, don't let him do anything until we've talked about it, until we've looked at the drawings together. Like we want a drawing for everything. We don't want to leave it up.
You need a designer to draw the tile drawings that show your trim and your liners and things. And
the size grout joint I want you to use, and the trim piece, if it's a Schluter or if it's a bullnose, and where it starts, where it stops.
Yeah, we don't want to leave it up to the $15 an hour installer.
No. Well, on that note, an old boss of mine, and it's always stuck in my head. I was doing tile drawings, and this is really right at the beginning of my career, and I needed to add some more granular detail to them. And she just looked at me and she said, "Assume they're stupid. Like assume that they are just a box of rocks, and that they have zero idea. You have to give them the full instruction manual, to know how to do this." And so that's, not
you
trying
can't
to be
give them
offensive,
too much.
Being offensive to the installer, but you're just putting it right there. I mean, the same on floor plans and cabinet elevations and things, just putting all of the information on there to equip them to be successful.
Yeah, I've used this example recently. I was talking to some other builders. Actually, it's a presentation that I'm working on to do for a conference, and I was like, okay, here's a drawing of a powder bathroom. It's 4 feet by 6 feet. It's a basic powder bathroom. Here's a floor plan, right? Now close your eyes and imagine what this room is going to look like with no other information. Okay, let's go around the table. You're going to tell me what you envision that powder bathroom looking like. Now you are. And everyone's going to have a totally different idea of what that space is going to look like. We all started with the same drawing, but we all have our own concept. And so imagine you're the guy who has to build it, and that's all that you have. We have to give that guy more information. That's where conflicts arise. If the guy doing the work doesn't have all the data, something's going to happen that you don't like. So good design is essential. So for everyone listening, go hire a designer as part of your process. It's what we always talk about. Get all the people at the table at the very beginning, the builder, the architect, the home designer, the interior designer, the landscape designer. Let's get the whole team together there to make the project successful.
Agreed.
Great advice.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have today, and that's a great place to wrap up. So thank you all for joining us again today on this episode of the Your Project Shepherd podcast. I want to thank again Shannon and Laura and Vyara for being with me today.
Thanks for having us.
And we will definitely link all of your websites, your information, your podcast. So go check out all their social media and everything. We'll pop that on there.
Great.
Hope to see you guys again.
Thanks, Curtis.
All right,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.